I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Special counsel Jack Smith and his legal team had a critical hearing on Thursday in federal court in Washington, D.C. in connection with Jack Smith's ongoing criminal investigations into Trump. This one related to Trump's theft of thousands of government records, including top secret, sensitive, compartmented information, Donald Trump's mutilation, concealment, destruction, and obstruction of justice related to his theft of these records. Now, this critical hearing relates to special counsel Jack Smith seeking to compel further testimony of Evan Corcoran, who is Donald Trump's lawyer under the crime fraud exception. And what we're learning about from this hearing, which, by the way, took place in secret since all grand jury proceedings at the federal level and in general take place in secret. So we don't have a transcript of what was specifically said at this hearing, but we do know, based on what sources have told other reporters about this hearing and what we've learned from our own sourcing, is that special counsel Jack Smith has argued that the crime fraud exception applies here because Evan Corcoran and Donald Trump were engaged in obstruction of justice, and the obstruction of justice statute is 18 U.S.C., U.S. Code, Section 1519, destruction, alteration, or falsification of records, which basically refers to whoever knowingly alters, destroys, mutilates, conceals, covers up, falsifies, or makes a false entry in any record, document, or tangible object with the intent to impede, obstruct, or influence the investigation or proper administration of any matter within the jurisdiction of any department or agency of the United States. And the potential penalty for engaging in this is that an individual shall be fined under this title and imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. So the crime of obstruction carries with it a prison sentence of 20 years. So that could be a prison sentence that Evan Corcoran and Donald Trump are looking at. So Evan Corcoran was previously called before the criminal grand jury in Washington, D.C. We've reported about this here on the MeidasTouch Network, and that occurred fairly recently. Also, Alina Habba, Donald Trump's other lawyer, also testified before the grand jury, as did Christina Bobb, Donald Trump's other lawyer and also custodian of records, all testifying before the grand jury in Washington, D.C., and meeting with members of the Department of Justice as well. And what the issue regarding Evan Corcoran specifically relates to, as it does with Christina Bobb, is back in June of 2022, Christina Bobb and Evan Corcoran met with top Department of Justice officials in the Counterintelligence Division, and Christina Bobb provided the top DOJ counterintelligence official with an affidavit or an attestation stating that they conducted a diligent search of Mar-a-Lago, and after Trump's legal team, including Evan Corcoran and Christina Bobb, conducted this diligent search, and based on the information told to her, there were no other documents at all in Mar-a-Lago. No other documents existed, and they conducted this diligent search, and she signed it under penalty of perjury, and she made this attestation to the Department of Justice. Now, the person who told her that the search was done and a diligent search was done and that there were no other records in there was Evan Corcoran, Donald Trump's lawyer, and Corcoran claimed that he did that search, and of course we know that that was a lie. That is part of what comes under 18 U.S. Code Section 1519, right? That would go to the concealment, the cover-up, the falsification, and the false entry provisions within 18 U.S.C. Section 1519, because on August 8th, when the search warrant was actually executed at Mar-a-Lago, the Department of Justice found the documents right away. I mean, they were right there, not a few documents. There were thousands of records, including over 100 additional sensitive compartmented information, which is the highest category of classified and top secret information that exists in our country. So, and it doesn't just relate to that date, what Evan Corcoran did. I mean, Evan Corcoran was the lawyer who was basically responsible for all of these dealings with the Department of Justice after the National Archives referred the matter to the Department of Justice. And just so you remember, I'll just give you kind of the 30, 45-second summary of Donald Trump's concealment of these records, right? So he leaves the White House in January 2021. The National Archives are supposed to get these records back. They realize they don't have it back. They ask for it. They say, hey, we're missing things. Donald Trump continues to lie in 2021. The National Archives say, look, we're getting really serious about this now. Turn over this stuff right now. So then in January of 2022, Donald Trump gives like 15 boxes back to the National Archives. The boxes have lots of like newspaper clippings, but like kind of hidden and concealed within the newspaper clippings is all the sensitive compartmented information and top secret information, like really sensitive stuff. And from the reporting we've done, this could be potentially nuclear secrets, information about Iranian weapon systems and Chinese weapon systems, and things that Donald Trump could likely be using transactionally in private life for his own kind of personal gain, but certainly things that are very, very sensitive that can give sources and methods that could really harm our national security and likely have caused grave injury to our national security. So the National Archives gets this information and they go to the DOJ. Whoa, we've got all the sensitive compartmented information here. He's been hiding this stuff. You got to take this over, DOJ. So DOJ takes it over. That brings us to February, March, April, May of 2022. This is when Evan Corcoran's really involved. And again, he continues to lie to the DOJ, say, we don't have anything. We don't have to turn everything over. And the DOJ is like, yeah, you do. It doesn't belong to him. He can't steal our government records and he can't be hiding sensitive compartmented information. So after...
And now let's take a quick break to talk about our next partner, Magic Spoon. Growing up, cereal was one of the best parts of being a kid, but as I got older, I had to watch out for sugar and empty carbs. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you love, but high protein and less sugar. Magic Spoon has replicated your favorite childhood cereals to taste good, but each serving contains 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 net grams of carbs per serving. It's a keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free way to relive those moments watching your favorite cartoons. Plus, it's only 140 calories a serving. It's like there's magic in every spoon. With over 8 unique flavors, you won't get bored of feeling good with Magic Spoon. My favorite is peanut butter, but they also have flavors like cocoa, blueberry muffin, maple waffle, honey nut, and birthday cake. And now get this, Magic Spoon is dropping limited edition flavors, strawberry milkshake, and peaches and cream. They taste like dessert and are absolutely delicious. They're only available for a little while, so grab these one-of-a-kind flavors while you can. Head to magicspoon.com/Meidas to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try the magic for yourself. And be sure to use our promo code Meidas at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas to save $5 off. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this. And now, back to the video.
Corcoran and Trump refused to comply. A subpoena is issued from a criminal grand jury that's impaneled in federal court in Washington, D.C. They issue this subpoena saying, return all of these classified records, return all of the documents to us, and it has a return date. Eventually, that return date's negotiated to be this June 3rd meeting with Corcoran, Christina Bobb, and the Department of Justice. Corcoran and Bobb turn over a red weld folder. Those are those legal folders that you see people carrying to court. It was sealed. It had sensitive compartmented information in there, and that's when Corcoran and Bobb lie. They falsify the information pursuant to 18 U.S.C. Section 1519, and they say, look, here's everything. There is nothing else. The Department of Justice and FBI have their sources, of course, within Mar-a-Lago. They actually have access to the surveillance footage based on another subpoena, so they know that boxes are being moved. They see what's going on. and then they execute the search warrant after being lied to, after getting this false attestation. But the DOJ gave him like 2 years to comply. I mean, just compare that to what President Biden and former Vice President Pence did, where they just told the DOJ, here, come in our house, search whatever you want. We have nothing to hide here. To the extent there's anything inadvertent, it was just because we had big jobs and sometimes we brought things home. But here, search it. There was no intent. And that's the difference, where there's clear criminal intent here with Trump and Corcoran and others hiding this over and over again. So Corcoran goes before the criminal grand jury fairly recently, and he testifies, but he invokes attorney-client privilege. Corcoran goes, I can't testify on a lot of these questions you're asking me about my communications and coordination with Donald Trump. I was acting as his lawyer, and based on my legal representation, the attorney-client privilege applies, so all of our communications are confidential. And Jack Smith said, no. There's something called the crime fraud exception. We all remember how the January 6th committee got a lot of the information from John Eastman. John Eastman also tried to claim, hey, I'm Trump's lawyer. You can't get my text messages and you can't get my emails with Donald Trump. That's part of my representation. So Eastman filed that lawsuit, I guess over a year ago at this point, in federal court in Washington, D.C., in federal court in the Central District of California before Judge David Carter there, Central District of California. And there, Judge David Carter, federal judge from the Central District of California, said, no, you can't get an injunction to stop the January 6th committee from getting your records because I found the crime fraud exception applies, that a crime took place, step 1, and step 2 of the crime fraud exception, these emails and communications and text messages were in furtherance of the criminal conduct at issue. And remember, that was the famous line where Judge David Carter said that it was a coup in search of a legal theory, that it wasn't like legal representation. So the same type of legal doctrine applies here, where you have, on the one hand, Evan Corcoran saying, I can't tell you about my dealings with Donald Trump, and you have Jack Smith saying, yes, you can, crime fraud exception, you were both engaged in criminal conduct. And even, by the way, Evan Corcoran, if you didn't know it, and you were being used to commit a crime in any way, the crime fraud exception still applies. What crime? 18 U.S.C. Section 1519, obstruction of justice, the falsification and the concealment. And so we want to get that information now. These communications were in furtherance of that crime. Stop hiding the records. Give us your emails. And Corcoran saying no. So that hearing goes before federal Judge Beryl Howell. Judge Beryl Howell has to have oral arguments after there's briefing. That's what took place Thursday. Judge Beryl Howell has not made her ruling yet, and she actually leaves that position. It's a rotating position of who oversees rulings relating to criminal grand juries. It's always the presiding judge, so she's done that for some time. There's going to be a new judge doing it who's actually an Obama appointee who will be the presiding judge as of March 16th. So it's unclear if Beryl Howell will make her ruling before the new judge takes place. But again, this shows the aggressiveness, and rightfully so, that special counsel Jack Smith is taking. This is showing that Jack Smith's criminal case is advancing as well. We've reported here on the MeidasTouch Network how Alvin Bragg is likely to indict very soon, the Manhattan District Attorney who has offered Donald Trump the opportunity to speak before the criminal grand jury there in New York, which is very frequently the last step before criminal indictments take place. So that's a state criminal case. So Alvin Bragg's case is moving along. But this case right here, this federal case, is moving along quite swiftly as well. A few more rulings that Jack Smith needs, and I think then Jack Smith will be in a position where he will be ready to criminally indict as well. People like Evan Corcoran, Christina Bobb, they have real criminal liability as well. As we've said here on the MeidasTouch Network, one of the things that MAGA stands for is make attorneys get attorneys, and that's no different right here. We'll keep you posted on this and more developments on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We are marching to 1 million subscribers in the month of March, so please hit subscribe right now. In addition, you can check us out wherever you get your audio podcast. Just search MeidasTouch Podcast. I know you'll love the podcast I do with my brothers. There's a new podcast that we did that just dropped. And also, you can check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Thanks so much for watching this, and until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
The best part of waking up? MAGA tears in my cup. Check out the new MAGA tears mug available now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com. It's 100% union made right here in the USA. I know I'm not tired of winning yet. How about you? Get yours today.